What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X Podcast, episode 71, your league podcast for gaming news and opinions, coming at you each and every Monday, noon Eastern. I'm Kevin McManus. With me, Kellen Williard.
Yep.
Nick Hassell.
That's me.
Today we're doing something a little bit different, as you may be able to see. We're doing the top 10 PlayStation 3 games. We've done this already for Wii U, and we've done it for the 360.
Yep.
So we're doing it for PS3. The way it works is we each have a list of 10. Number 10 gets 1 point, number 9 gets 2 points, number 1 gets 10 points. We add all the points together, we break some tiebreakers.
Then we have an official Press X
top 10 list. I've liked the Wii U list. I've liked the 360 list. I don't think I'm going to like this list, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, no.
I don't understand. But just some general rules for it. The game had to release originally on the PS3. So something
Hope
like
these all did.
BioShock does not count because it came out a year earlier,
Sure.
or whatever, however long earlier on the Xbox 360. And only one per franchise. So you can't have Madden 08 and Madden 09. Or Call of Duty this and Call of Duty that. Or Assassin's Creed this, Assassin's Creed that.
Yeah, but if, I guess an outlier to that rule, which may end up showing up here, spoiler alert, it will, if it was like this brand of game, but then there's a spin-off of this one's a racing game or this one's a fighting game or something like that.
Yeah, like
all
Little
good.
Big Planet karting, Little Big Planet. They're
Sure.
different. They're different series. Little Big Planet karting will never be on a top 10 PlayStation 3 list.
Why not?
Pretty strict rules, but I think it keeps it more interesting / genuine.
Yeah, it's the closest thing we can do without just doing exclusives, basically.
Yeah,
like a
because
full exclusive
Wii U
list.
just would have been Zelda all over the place and, whatever, stuff like that. And
I do want to start off, I know you guys don't agree somehow. I think the PlayStation 3 is one of the best consoles ever. I think its game library is insane.
it was one of my favorite Blu-ray players I've ever owned.
It's a great Blu-ray, but that's how it stealthed its way into people's houses. Its ability to play PS1 games, PS2 games, and then it had awesome exclusives. Just going down the list, I saw, you have your Demon Souls, your Last of Us, your Uncharted, your Metal Gears, your Ratchet & Clank, your God of Wars, Heavy Rains, Journeys, Mag, which you cannot play anymore. So that won't be on
Turn the
this
servers
list,
off.
I assume. Your Killzones, Infamouses, Resistance, Ni no Kuni, Twisted Metals, Sly Coopers, Warhawks, Starhawks, all that stuff. So I really, really like this console. I have 2 non-exclusives on my list, which is very different than my 360 list, where I think I had 2 exclusives, actually. But anyway.
I've owned better systems. Not my favorite PS system.
It's not my favorite PS
Probably
system
my
either.
4th favorite.
Oh, it's my second favorite.
It was so mediocre. I got a PS4 before I got a PS3.
Oh, it's fun. It's
Wait,
great.
no, PS Vita. Yeah, it's my 5th. Never mind.
It's definitely up there. Just the catalog of games you could play is insane.
That's fine.
But anyway.
This was during the 360's reign for me, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Played
was
that a
all
lot
about
more.
the other system.
See, like the 360... I don't want to get into it. Anyway,
we already have.
We're
so.
just going to go in a circle, say our game, say our kind of piece about why that game made the list. And I do want to point out, this is not favorite. This is not even necessarily best. This is kind of like a recommendation list.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle of critically acclaimed, and we stand by it as a game. And
It's almost sort of like someone handed us a system and like a gift card or something. Or
like you have a gift card for 10 games.
Yeah.
It's like these games.
The best kind of gift
So-
card.
This is a good spread of games.
For me personally, I don't know your list, like something like Metal Gear Solid 4. I think Metal Gear Solid 4 is one of the top 10 best games on the console. It won't be on my list because I would not recommend you just go buy Metal Gear Solid 4 and check it out. Like that will not go over well. So without further ado, let's hop into my list. And my number 10, I always try to have a little pet game as my number 10 because it typically doesn't matter very much. And my number 10 is PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which is a game I love very dearly. I think it was the best of its kind. It gets compared to Smash a lot, and I understand why, because aesthetically it's very much like Smash.
Yeah.
But it is a fighting game made by a team of literal professional fighting game players. That Sony got together and they're like, hey, make this game for us. And it showed, and I think that was actually its biggest weakness. The mechanics were all fighting game mechanics. It was a combo-based game. Whoever was the best at the game won 100% of the time. It was not a party brawler, like, fun time. Ooh, you can win some, and you can do this stuff.
There's no magic hammer that falls out in front of you, and you get to crush the other 3 guys who are way better than you.
Yeah, you just will win if you're better at the game. And that was a real problem. And then the other problem, I love how they translated the characters. So you had Kratos, whose the combos in God of War were the combos in the game. They translated perfectly, but they had a problem with balancing in that the way you killed people was doing your super moves, but that caused so much to balance. So you fill up your meter by attacking. Once your meter's filled up, you can do a super move, but they had to balance everybody's super moves different. And some of them are like short range, some of them are a little long range, some of them do crazy different things. And then on top of that, each move generates a certain amount of meter, and there's all these moves that you can do and all these combos, and it's like, what is too much and what's too little? And I actually think they went a little too far in trying to please the crowd of like the party brawlers, and they started adding things like, oh, if you jump and you land, you can't block after you land, and all this stuff. I think that the best patch of the game is not the patch that is currently available, unfortunately.
Sounds like a big mishmash of ideas.
It was, and I thought that they went very well together. I really, really enjoyed the game. Like I said, I liked it more than any Smash until the Wii U Smash. I think I like the Wii U Smash better. But yeah, it's just a fighting game. Yeah. With, like, the game's actually best one-on-one, but it's just a fighting game with Smash characters. Or not Smash characters, Sony characters.
PlayStation.
Has a few copyright issues with that, but
has almost a Smash character in Raiden, but
yeah.
Anyway, love that game. I have to put it on my list because I always recommend that game to people. As long as you put in the time to learn the moves and the combos, it's a real fun time.
Yeah, it's cool.
But like I said, you hand that controller to somebody who just comes over, they're not going to have a fun time. They're just going to get destroyed.
It's fun, though.
Mm-hmm. So, PlayStation
At least they stuck with that and didn't go like some hybrid where it's just like sometimes the really good guy's awesome and wins, and then other times the noob just crushes. And I don't know, because that frustrates everyone when it's hybrid like that.
You just really got to learn the game and then be all right.
So, Kellen, what do you got?
Number 10, I'll go Valkyria Chronicles. A game I really want to play. I own 2 copies of it and just haven't gotten to it yet.
Interesting.
Like, I really want to play this game. It's just one of those RTS RPG kind of mashups that has a really unique setting. It's in like a odd version of Europe and during like World War I, like the 1930s era. It has a very cool setting. It's supposed to be a really good story. Just a game I've seen gameplay of and videos of, and I really need to play it. Mm-hmm. It looks really good. It recently got a re-release for PC, like an up-res and all this stuff, so that's one of the copies I have. It's supposed to be a great game if you like that style of game. I really just need to play it, but I put it on here. Like Kevin, it's kind of just like a little pet game I want to play.
Yeah, and my number 10, I'm always like, you need to be on the list.
Yeah,
I was like...
Just so I can talk about it.
Yeah, it was the same with like Puppeteer. I was like, ooh, Puppeteer All-Stars. So I was going back and forth between.
Yeah, as far as like RTS RPG mashup, it's supposed to be one of the best. Just hadn't got a chance to play it myself, so.
Number 10 for me, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Not my style of fighting game. I usually don't play too much of the Blaze Blue, any of those type of like anime fighters, quote unquote, is what they're called. I'm more of the Street Fighter type or Marvel type. That's about as goofy or I guess as loose as you get, because all the other games, the Tekkens, the Virtua Fighters, the whatever else are really, punishing to new players and people who just casually just pick up a gamepad or a controller and just like, oh, sure, I'll screw around and see what happens.
Yeah,
well,
it's like
nothing.
All-Stars.
You get crushed. You get backed into a corner and crushed.
Yeah, they're like, well, I know how many millimeters to the left this movie. And it's like, all right,
it's like, what does my 2 do? Oh, it doesn't do anything. You're not nearby.
This one was a nice break. Obviously,
why do I keep taunting by accident?
The characters, because, you get to hear the dialogue in between the match and stuff like that. You get to see some cool locations that they go to. It had a single player that was insanely good, matching 2 different franchises, basically, Persona 3 and Persona 4 up together and throwing all new people on top of that. Good DLC characters that they brought in from 4. And was just a nice mashup of just about everything. The controls were fine, and like I said, it's not my typical kind of fighting game. This is one where you can spam buttons and get cool combos, do flashy moves, and see awesome specials and ultimates and whatever else. So it's the type of fighting game. It's more like a party fighter where it's just like you play someone, loser passes the controller to the next guy, and it's just, I don't know, when you get a group of people
the auto combo system makes you feel like a badass even if you're not, which is
Even if
always
you're me.
fun.
And obviously in a room full of Persona people, it's nice to have a game like that. So
Yeah.
I think it did everything it was supposed to and more.
Yeah, it's a great fighting game.
And,
a deceptively good fighting game.
Yeah, and I mean, it even bumped up music that was already good and made cooler versions of it too. A lot of unlockables, a lot of customization too. So that was really cool. But yeah, it did everything it was supposed to.
Next up for me, my number 9 slot is Red Dead Redemption. I was teetering between this and Grand Theft Auto. I knew I wanted to have one of those somewhere on the list, and I decided to go with Red Dead for the more... I don't know, there's just something about the redemption story of Red Dead Redemption that fits with me better than the satire of Grand Theft Auto. And also, Red Dead probably the best Western game there is. Western meaning actual
Out
Western.
of all four.
Out of all four,
yeah.
Gun.
You got that and Gun and
Stranger's Wrath. But out of all those games, it's probably the best, whereas I think there's better Grand Theft Auto games than the ones on the PlayStation 3. And on top of that, you kind of feel like your console's going to explode when you play GTA 5. Like, it runs, it struggles. So anyway, yeah, Red Dead, I enjoy the... what they did with that game, it spoke to me more than the Grand Theft Auto, and I knew I was going to put one of those up there, and that's the one I went with. So, Red Dead Redemption.
Fair enough.
My numero 9.
Number 9, I've got Resistance.
Which one?
The first one. It was the only one I played. That was when I was on campus at school, and a friend of mine had a PS3 and Resistance, and we played the shit out of that game.
Yeah.
Nearly sold me a PS3 just so I could play Resistance, but didn't quite get there.
You should play 2 and 3 because they're better.
I don't know. I don't know much about them.
Yeah,
but I have a PS3 now. I probably could.
Yeah, they're cool. I have both of them. You can borrow them.
Yeah. But yeah, I played a lot of the first one because we played the online, even though it sucked because we were on campus.
Mm-hmm.
But that game's a lot of fun. We just played the hell out of it.
Yeah, Resistance very much its weapons are kind of what's interesting.
It's more about the weapons. Yeah, because it's World War II, but not really.
Yeah, it's an alternate history, which is awesome.
Which I love alternate history
and
stuff.
they follow that all the way through with their stories. But yeah, the multiplayer, phenomenal.
It was very good, yeah.
Resistance.
I like the way they built that world and the way they did it.
It's a franchise I wish caught on more because it didn't. They kept making them, which is nice, but it definitely didn't do what they wanted.
Yeah, it didn't do as well as I always thought it would after playing the first one when it was still fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that gen too was probably the golden age of shooters.
It got kind of hidden behind some Call of Duties and whatnot. But yeah, I thought that game was
lost
a lot
in
of
a
fun.
sea of them. Yeah.
Yeah, Resistance, cool series.
Great films.
Number 9, God of War 3.
Ooh.
I think the easiest phrase for God of War games is satisfying. It's just, I don't know. It satisfies as far as like gameplay, controls are always sharp. No real problems, issues there. Satisfying in the gore, the epic scale, boss fights, the music blaring at you, and all that. Like, I don't know. It's just a mishmash of all the, I guess, mature elements of
anything they could fit into.
Video
and
games and
everything.
stuff like that. And it just feels really satisfying when you're running through the levels and you beat the big bad and go on and keep doing it. And
yeah, I love God of War 3.
really simple formula, I guess.
Yeah, it works.
I still think it's one of the prettiest games ever. Like, that game is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I was super shocked because I went back and played it 2 years ago, maybe now. I went through 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And when I got to 3, I was like, holy crap, this game's so pretty. And, the PS4 and everything was out at that point. And I was like, this is way prettier than a lot of PS4 games. Like, it just puts them to shame. But yeah, the scale of God of War. And actually, I think God of War is one of the better trilogies ever in that it wraps up They did a pretty good job wrapping it up, and then they went and they're like, "Ooh, Ascension, let's ruin it." But
yeah, I mean, they just didn't try anything that was especially like overreaching. It's just like they just kind of
that's
stuck
actually
to it.
exactly what it is. Yeah, usually, especially in 2, they're like, "All right, let's make all the areas huge and let's make the boss fights bigger," and they
Yeah.
go too far. And I feel like God of War specifically, even the final boss fight, like it's an even match instead of like some ridiculous
Yeah.
17-part boss fight. Like
They didn't go too Japanese with it, basically, is the easiest way of saying it, where it's just
Fair.
like
it's fair.
beyond limits of comprehension.
Yeah, really good series. God of War 3 actually my favorite of the trilogy. What are we at? Number
8.
8.
Right.
Infamous. Particularly Infamous 1, actually, which is not the common opinion of most fans of the series, but I thought 2 did exactly what I was talking about. I think 2 went too big. Its story was too big. I was like, there should probably be more people showing up, and like, this is a big problem, guys. Like, maybe like the government should do a little bit more here. But anyway, Infamous 1, a origin story, always my favorite superhero story, the origin. And it had an awesome twist, one of my favorite twists in video games in it. The gameplay was solid, and most of all, it did that thing where it's like, ooh, you could be a good guy or a bad guy, but it didn't feel cheap. I think in Infamous 2, it felt cheap in that the choices were like duh or duh. And then in Infamous Second Son, it was really bad in that it's like one of them's bad and one of them's good. And it's like, what one could it be? Well, one's written in red. One's written in blue, and that says murder somebody, and that says save them.
That says aim for the
it
face.
was
That says aim for the ankle.
Super obviously like polarizing. But in Infamous 1, I thought they were much more like nuanced ones, and I actually picked some of the bad choices, even though I was playing a good playthrough, because I was just picking what I thought I would do. For instance, one of the choices is save your girlfriend or save this room full of doctors. And you have to decide what building to go save the person. And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting decision to actually make, as opposed to murder this guy or save this guy. Like, I thought that one had the best, most condensed, cohesive story.
More gray, less black and white.
Gameplay not as good as 2, but I thought it made up for it with its story, which, as far as PlayStation goes, is a big reason that I like that console so much, is because I'm so story-based, and they really went after the 6 to 8 hours tell a story, which at least during that time was my favorite type of experience to have. How about you, Kellen?
We're at number 8.
Apparently, that's what I was told.
We'll go ahead and get Call of Duty out of the way. Modern Warfare, the first one, or Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, whatever. You know, just a solid, very good first-person shooter. We've talked about it before, but yeah, a very good game.
It's so good, and it's like one of those things now, it's like, whatever. But at the time, it was so revolutionary.
It started a lot of the modern shooter frenzy.
Almost all of it. I honestly think the biggest thing it did was set the control scheme for what a shooter
100%,
should be.
Set up the controls much
it's
better.
still almost exactly that nowadays. Like, not much has changed.
If that's not the default, then there's always a controller type B or C where
It just matches
Call of
that
Duty
almost
controls.
entirely. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that goes for like Halo and stuff now too. So
like
Halo's
everything
changed up stuff. Yeah,
took their control scheme.
because it worked
which is
very well.
super important.
The game was very polished. It was a good game.
Number 8, Kevin's favorite game from a previous episode of this,
My favorite.
BioShock Infinite.
Jesus Christ.
I thought about it.
We're not.
I
doing
did
the
more than
top
think
10
about it.
Worst list. Please tell me why Infinite isn't a piece of trash. If you said BioShock 2, I'd be more
The
interested.
biggest
but-
reason I believe most people, and including me, like the game is based on Elizabeth and her storyline and chasing after her, basically, for the entire game.
and how irrelevant it is at the end of the game.
How relevant it is at the end of the game, which I won't spoil. Locations are cool. I liked zipping around all the city parts and stuff like that. That was awesome. I liked the jump around from you're in a warehouse to now you're on a blimp to now you're in this factory to all these different places. I won't say that the locations were better than being under the sea in Rapture, That's hard to compete
Sebastian?
with.
I love Rapture.
But I think the combat and the weapons were just as good, if not better.
Yeah, 'cause
Really liked.
one wasn't about combat.
Well,
Sorry.
and also remember, I can't put BioShock on the list, so
Yeah,
We can't put the first.
I
So
mean it
thi-
would have
so
been
this
very
is-
high up on my list.
this
Yeah.
isn't a Infinite versus BioShock. But yeah, I really dug the game. It had enough of the BioShock elements to me to make me like it. Really liked Elizabeth. Really liked everything except for the final fight in that game. So yeah, really dug it.
Fair.
Next up, number 7.
Sure.
Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain, talk about narrative-driven games that double down on that almost to the degree of a movie. Heavy Rain, with its branching story paths, its unique gameplay, I'll call it, which mix QuickTime events even in like the most mundane, like
Yeah.
They were
you
hilarious.
failed. You failed. But it was new and interesting at the time. I do think QuickTime events did get overdone during that generation. But when they made it the source of the gameplay, it worked. And I liked Beyond, and I'm very excited for Detroit because I like how David Cage does his games.
Well, it keeps you engaged too. It's not
Mhm.
one of those where you can play and then kind of goof around, look at your phone for a little bit.
Yeah, so the big
check
thing
your
is your
computer.
character dies, they're dead. They
Yeah.
are not in the rest of the game, and that changes how your whole story goes. And there is multiple endings you could get for this game.
Which is always a good thing for a game you're playing.
Oh yeah, my ending actually wasn't
Absolutely.
awful.
Which was better, that or the thing with Todd where he walks into this convenience store?
Oh yeah, so we had somebody playing Heavy Rain with us. We were swapping each character, and it was his first time playing, and he didn't like get the rundown of how it works, and he just walked up to someone with a gun and like just started wanting to shoot people, and like so somebody pulled a gun on the cash register,
On the clerk at
the
the
clerk,
convenience store.
and Todd just walks up, sees the situation, and like walks away.
He walks away and walks down an aisle and just leaves him.
Doesn't really know what's happening, and then we hear. And then it saves automatically as soon as something happens. I'm like, oh my god!
He walks back up and the clerk has just been shot.
But anyway, yeah, the amount of
I don't
things,
see the problem.
He just looks over the body like, huh.
the amount of things that can happen in that game are amazing. And I just really like the 4 playable characters. I loved how they structured that whole game, and the story is really good. It's a murder mystery, and I'm always down for murder mysteries.
Sure.
I've liked pretty much every murder mystery game I've ever played. So
Didn't sound like there was much of a mystery in that convenience store.
It was hilarious.
did it.
He walks in, he just like makes eye contact with him. He's like, nope. And walks
Yeah, you
off.
totally didn't understand the whole.
I'm sorry.
Concept
He
of what
just
to do.
He just like walks over to the freezer aisle. And he's
Yeah,
like,
I had a friend who let somebody else play because their character hadn't shown up in a while, and they jumped out a window and killed them, and that was it for their character.
yikes.
I was like, oh, all right.
It was hilarious.
So watch Playing Heavy Rain with friends, though it is a fun. Everybody gets a character.
Yeah, pick a character and go.
All right, what do you have next?
Grand Theft Auto 4. One of my probably top 3 Grand Theft Auto. Probably number 3, third favorite Grand Theft Auto. Very good game. I like Nico and all his stupidity, and it's just a very good game. Very
His stupid cousin.
yeah, his cousin's an idiot. Game's very very well done because it's Rockstar. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Very well polished. It looks great. It's typical Grand Theft Auto. You do whatever. Go around, kill stuff.
Some RPG elements.
A little
So
bit.
You can get a haircut.
Yeah.
You can raise those strength stats by working out, or you can get a real fat man.
That's part of the reason I liked it. It has a little bit of RPG to it. Just very good game.
The cityscape was surprisingly accurate too.
Cityscape was great in that game. Very good. I like it.
Done?
Yeah.
Number 7, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain.
Jesus Christ.
This was a Metal Gear that you actually got to play on the system, so that put it ahead. It is a Kojima production, as you will be
Are you sure?
very much reminded of in this game. Quiet, awesome character.
Quiet is awesome.
Breaks the game when you secure her services to your operation, I guess. Literally game breaking. It just makes it easy mode. But lots of options for what you can do as far as approach to missions. There's plenty of go extract this guy or this person, bring him back. So you You can roll up, go guns a-blazing. You can stealth your way in there. Lots of options, whereas in the past, you obviously got severely handicapped if you went in guns blazing or if someone saw you or if you alerted anyone. This one...
Very much stealth games,
Go
the other
for it.
ones.
Yeah.
This one, sandbox.
This one
Yep.
is shoot a guy, put him in a inflatable thingy and shoot him up to the
Shoot 'em up
sky.
to your base.
Put a balloon on.
While
For
collecting
extraction.
80s tapes. But yeah, like the music really helped, especially just that awesome feeling that I got for every mission where you're just rolling in, you finish your mission, you're going back to the helicopter after you call it in, and you just hear it swooping down
You set
to
what
the final
music,
countdown.
Yeah, every time.
To the final
It
countdown.
never got old, not once.
That was
And
definitely my highlights of the game.
Yeah.
Was like an extraction mission where you're with someone that you couldn't Fulton up,
Yeah.
and you're like running away from the people, and you hear, "It's the final again." And you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna make it."
It was awesome. I really liked some of the boss fights in the game, and I liked how it was structured too. Like it was like there's the game, and then there's like a post game, basically. Like you get through this many chapters, and then there's like maybe the same chapters again, but a certain twist on it, and then like new chapters. It was really weird. It's a very Kojima game.
I was gonna say Kojima doing weird. I don't
Kojima?
believe it.
But the twist in it, okay, cool. The story in it, what? Just like every Metal Gear. But I liked it. Whole lot.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Unfinished Swan. Unfinished Swan is one of the games made by, well, it's from Giant Sparrow, who just put out Edith Finch, What Remains of Edith Finch.
They like birds, don't they?
Yes.
Unfinished ones.
That would be the I just wrote Unfinished Finch. God damn it. Unbelievable.
Unfinished Sparrow.
It was a really cool walking simulator style game that told the narrative from a storybook, and it was a first person experience, and you open up to the game and the entire game is just white, and you're like, what happened? And then you pull your little shoot button and you throw a thing of ink and it splatters, and then you turn a little bit and throw ink and it splatters, and you have to kind of find your way through the environment by throwing these ink pellets and looking at the splatter to see how, the statues form that are there and everything. I guess in theory, if you knew where you were going, you could just go with a completely blank screen, which would be pretty cool. But like that's the first section to it, and then the next section you have water, and it works a little bit differently. But anyway, really cool. The story is fine. The story is not the reason I would play the game. I'd play it just because it's a really unique experience. It's like nothing I've ever played before, and it was part of a partnership deal that Sony started on the PlayStation 3 with Sony Santa Monica, where they would basically be like, hey, we'll fund your game, you will pay for your, like, here's a bunch of money, and here, you make us a game, and then we'll sell it, and you make 3 games for us. And that's how we got like that game company doing like Flow, Flower, Journey. And this was another one of those deal. They did Unfinished Swan, and then I think they actually dropped them by the time they were done with Edith Finch because they took so long. Like they canceled
forever.
They canceled that division. But yeah, Unfinished Swan is fantastical. It's also now on Vita and PS4, I believe. So
Cool.
Check it out.
Number 6, Heavy Rain.
Ooh, the first repeat, finally.
I really like this game. Whatever you play. But like Kevin, I like a good story-driven game more recently than I used to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a really good game. Really well written. I like the permadeath for the character. I think it works in this game really well. There's several different endings. I've seen, I think, 2 of them now.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really cool game. A lot of different things you can do. A lot of stupid things you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Like walk in and watch somebody get shot and walk out.
Yeah, like I've always wanted to play it and just kill everybody and kind of
Yeah.
see how that goes. That happened to my sister played it, and I was like, oh, how'd it go? And she's like, everybody died. Because I was not ready for the quick times in this game.
Everyone died.
Yeah, she killed all of them. So
I like the way if you turn up the difficulty, the quick times are just like you need 3 hands
insane. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just funny. Like,
it's almost like a fun challenge to.
Yeah.
We should do that as a challenge. We'll play Heavy Rain on the hardest
On the
difficulty,
hardest difficulty.
and see who can survive.
who has the most survivors. That's not your worst idea.
It's pretty bad.
Oh, I won the last time we did something like that with.
You're the only one that had both survive, right?
Yeah,
Oh, Until Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like, let's see who can.
the guy
have
who
the
was
most
scared
people.
to death of playing the game, but I came out on top.
Yikes. Yeah, Heavy Rain. Cool story. Well written. Very neat.
Number 6, Red Dead Redemption.
Ooh.
Not really too much to add to your speech about it. Yeah, I mean, obviously best Western game by a long shot. Hopefully that gets outdone by its sequel coming up here hopefully soon.
We'll see. According to Kellen.
But yeah, just solid game.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of any gaming circles that would not include this on the top 10 list, whether it's 360 or this. So just gotta put it.
Definitely looking up different top 10. I like to look up a bunch of other people's lists and kind of see how it goes for this in particular. Red Dead's always right up there. There's a handful of games that are right up there. Some of them I don't stand by.
It's well earned.
Red Dead's hard to argue with.
I just winged it.
Never. Number 5.
Yep.
For 6 points. Persona 5. Persona 5, obviously, big Persona fan.
Are you?
Oh, yeah. And Persona 5...
5 for 5?
Does a lot of things... Mechanically, just... does everything I love. I think it falls shorter of some of the other ones in characters and maybe the story. I haven't decided yet on how I feel about the story. And we'll be doing a comparison.
We will at some point.
Yeah, we'll be doing a comparison video for that at some point. But, yeah, Persona 5 definitely on PlayStation 3. A little worse than PlayStation 4.
Mostly
obviously.
just graphical.
Visuals are down. Loading times are longer, which is a problem only because... you load so many things all the time, every area you go into. But it by no means hampers the game into an unplayable thing. It is perfectly acceptable for...
Runs above 1 frame per second.
Runs better than Zelda.
Most
perfectly
things do.
acceptable. Probably the best mechanical turn-based RPG ever. Great characters. May not like them as much as the other ones, whatever. Great characters, great story, engaging, and the biggest thing I can say is you'll play it for 110 hours and you'll finish and you'll be like, where did the time go? That did not feel
I don't know how I spent 97 or
Yeah,
whatever.
you'll just sit down and play it for 13 hours and be like, it's real dark out.
It's another day. What happened?
What happened? So yeah, Persona 5.
Cool. Number 5, I have Infamous.
Ooh.
So I haven't got to play the first one yet, but that's definitely a game I'm going back to. I remember this game came out. 2 of my friends that I worked with, they would not freaking shut up about Infamous. So I've heard a lot of things about it and really like to play it. I heard it's a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
What of it I've seen combat-wise looks pretty good. And then I got to play the PS4 one. I liked it a lot. So definitely something
and it's very... I actually disagree with a lot of it, but a lot of people like... the PS3 one's better than the PlayStation 4 ones, mainly because, one, your character is a little bit more relatable.
Yeah.
He's less of a jerk. But also
I can relate to the jerk, though.
You also only have one power. The whole you have electric, and that's your thing.
That's
so everything
thing,
you do is based off of electric, and you start doing things that you're like, oh, I didn't think that I would get that powerful, or oh, I didn't even think to use electric in that way.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Real good. I should probably go back and play the Infamouses again.
Yeah, I'd like to go back and play those, but yeah, a lot of respect for those games. It'll be very good. Definitely on this list.
Number 5, Killzone 2. One of my, I haven't done a ranking, but one of my favorite shooters,
Short and Infamous a point,
of all time. I spent so much time playing this. It was at pretty much a perfect opportunity. I forget the actual release date for it, but when it came out, I had a block of time between the next shooter. And like I said, I was stuck on 360 for the most part during this generation. So for me to not only buy the PS3, but buy the Killzone, buy the headset to play online with, it was...
Yeah, that was kind of a pain in the ass.
It was a pretty penny, basically, and to deal with PSN at that time, which was not the best.
Not the greatest.
Compared to Xbox Live at that time. So, yeah, to make that huge switch and then obviously pour in, hundreds of hours playing the multiplayer, really fun game.
Yeah, I platinumed Killzone 2, which is a very hard platinum.
Mm-hmm.
I love that game to death as well. People always knock on it for the sluggish controls.
Yeah.
Like it feels.
It made sense though.
Yeah, it feels sluggish, but it's like you're like a big armored dude.
That was
like you don't pull up your sights. Like it's not a Twitch shooter. Yeah, it's not a Twitch shooter. It's a little more strategic.
That was the first game I don't remember Killzone one off the top of my head.
Best word, but
methodical.
Tactical.
That was the first one where the sniper, I believe, got that cloak ability.
Yes.
The way it did. Ooh.
What a cool... Yeah, you could cloak... Everybody had two abilities.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they'd call that a hero shooter. But everybody had two abilities, and the snipers one was a cloak, and the other one targeted... It, like, wiped across the screen, and it put targets on everyone's heads. So it's like, that's where you need to aim. It's so cool.
Oh, baby, was it fun to snipe in that game?
Yeah, it was super satisfying, that ching, when you hit the headshot. Oh, boy, oh, boy. And the story wasn't bad. Like, the single player was
fine, I ran through it once or twice. Sure.
Fine single player, but man, that multiplayer. I played Killzone 2 so much. And I also actually want to give a shout out to the DLC levels in that game.
Yeah,
they're
really
awesome.
good.
They were like, well, we have our basic levels, but the DLC levels always... They like added a twist to it. So they're like, this one is two trains moving next to each other, and you in real time have to jump between the trains and all that. I was like, this is sweet. And sometimes you jump and there would be like a sign, and you're like, when you just fall to your death.
Yeah.
Killzone, I have lots and lots and lots of hours.
Is that the one you got the controller adapter for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I could not stand the PS3 controller. Yeah, I got the adapter to use my 360. It gave me some problems here and there, like cutting out, as you would imagine a third-party thing doing. But it was worth the headache because, I mean, just money alone that I poured into being able to play Killzone 2, that's why it's on my list. Time-wise and money-wise.
That, and it's a good game. I also really enjoyed that their game mode was super unique at the time. There's a couple games that do it, but basically games in Killzone were 7 games in one.
Yeah, it's like a round robin sort of thing.
Yeah, so you'd be playing and you would never know what was going to happen. And you were like, all right, we start, and it goes team deathmatch. And you're like, all right, we're playing team deathmatch, guys. Then you finish team deathmatch, I think 15 seconds or whatever goes by, and then it'll be like search and destroy.
All with no loading, really.
Yeah, it's not like it just announces what you're playing next.
Yeah.
It's
not like winner, and then it loads a new map, and you have to vote on stuff and set up a new... like loadout or like
you're just running, and sometimes it would like you'd be on their side of the map from team deathmatch chasing a guy down, and it'd be like search and destroy, defend, and you're like, oh shit, and you turn around and you run back to your base to try and get there. And then one of my favorites was the VIP game where it selected one person randomly on your team, and if that person died, you lost that particular game mode. Yeah. So it was just like hide them in a corner, go, defend that person literally with your life. People would be running out and just taking bullets for them. Yeah. It was so good. I really loved. That's one of my favorite multiplayers of all time. Yeah. Killzone 2. Another one of my favorite multiplayers, actually, but an even better single player, Uncharted 2. We go in Uncharted 2 on this one. I'm not one of those people that thinks Uncharted 3 is better for some reason.
You mean the dumb people?
Yeah, the dumb ones. We won't speak about them. But
we just did.
Uncharted 2, just from that tutorial level, you open up and you're climbing the train, then it goes back in time. You're introduced instantly to 2 very likable characters. Some stuff goes down. The villain in the game is awesome. It's the most James Bond villain I've ever seen that actually works in something that's not James Bond. Drake, obviously a great character, and they just took everything from the first one, which was already a very good game, and they amped it up just enough. And the thing is, like, the story's good. I wouldn't say the story's great in Uncharted. I think the story is good, but those characters are great. They're fantastic. They're so well-rounded and well-written, and I always talk about, I think it was Uncharted 4's thing that we were talking about, but I'm always like, I always know it's a good character when I could write an essay on that character and tell you what they believe in, why they're that way, all that. Like, I could write a whole paper on every character, every main character in the game, and have a full, well-rounded story. And that's why I like the Persona series and things, is because I can do that with everybody. Yeah. And I feel like I can do that with the Uncharted cast so easily. But yeah, Uncharted 2, definitely the biggest jump I've seen for multiple games, from a 1 to a 2. Like, gosh, it was phenomenal. Not to mention, it's just like a super pretty game, like
Yeah.
graphic wise and everything. There was nothing even close to it at that time, and they just kept outdoing themselves in that department.
That's what they do.
The graphic department. So
We're at number 4.
Yep.
All right, number 4. Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
Yeah. One of those games that since I didn't have a PS3, I kind of missed. Yeah. Very good game. Finally got it when they redid it for the PS4. Very pretty game. I haven't finished the single player.
Definitely the prettiest.
It's
PS3
gorgeous. Yeah. Looks very good. Didn't finish single player because I got distracted by the multiplayer. Because it's surprisingly fun.
Deceptive, like
It's surprisingly fun for what it is.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that the multiplayer in that game was anything but tacked on. And I remember specifically they never let anybody play the multiplayer before the game came out, so everyone assumed it was bad.
Yeah.
Which is fair. Like Tomb Raider's multiplayer is terrible. Tomb Raider a good game, but its multiplayer is bad, and everybody kind of assumed it was like, oh yeah, it's just taking the gunplay and everything of the single player, and they made crappy little arenas, and you play it. But no, it was a super tactical, thoughtful multiplayer. Where healing really mattered and teamwork actually really mattered.
There's the random loot drops and stuff you got to go get items, and you have to make your item. Like there's crafting and it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. The idea that you get 2 items and you can either craft a health kit or you can craft a Molotov cocktail. And it's like, what do you want? Like you only get one.
Want the health kit
in multiplayer? Yeah.
Yeah, in multiplayer. Yeah. Yeah, people love that single player. It was a little slow to me where I was at, but need to go back and play it. But the multiplayer deceptively good.
Yeah.
Ate a lot more time than I thought it would.
It's like BioShock 2. You're like, I'm going to go play the multi. Oh, now I'm never going back to the
I hadn't finished BioShock 2 because I played the multiplayer, which was not great, but it was fun enough. Although this multiplayer is very good, and you could see where they borrowed some from it for Uncharted 4.
Yes.
Yeah, Last of Us. Very good.
Number 4, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim.
Really? Interesting.
Never heard of it.
Love me some Elder Scrolls games that aren't somehow forced into being MMOs. If I could, I would have put 4 on here, but Skyrim is a nice second place. Nice silver medal compared to that. I don't really know what else to say about Elder Scrolls games other than really fun.
They run poorly.
They ran fine for me. Not boring. Dragon fights were awesome. The shouts and stuff that you got to learn through the game were sweet.
Fus Roda.
Weapons were awesome. The cities and towns and stuff like that, really cool. And the quest lines were superb.
I like his helmet. That's all I got.
He has a cool helmet.
I had that game for a little bit. I returned it. For the next game on my list.
I had 3 for a little bit.
Catherine. Literally returned Skyrim for Catherine. Not even joking. I talk about Catherine all the time. I love that game. It fuses a bunch of things that I don't feel like belong together at all together, and it works perfectly.
Sheep and boxes and
yeah, just real weird things. Tells a super mature story elegantly without coming off as like, I don't know, like weird. Like
weird
it was
childish.
Really well done. Yeah, childish is a good way to put it. You spend like a third of the game in a bar. You can drink drinks, learn fun facts about the drinks. You can talk to everybody in the bar, learn what they're going through, why they're in this bar in the first place, all those things. And then you spend part of the game with either Catherine or Catherine, one with a C, one with a K. One is your longtime girlfriend who wants more commitment. One is a new, younger girl that kind of stumbles in and you make some...
kind of throws herself at you.
Yeah, you make a little love, get down tonight, and then it becomes a big old issue, and you have to decide they give you questions to answer that change the story a little bit, and then the actual like full gameplay of it is a puzzle game where you're climbing blocks, and it sounds so simple, but it's not at all.
Until they add the ice.
Yeah, it's a stairway of blocks, and you need to push and pull blocks to create stairs to climb up further and further. And then, it starts out easy. Then some blocks are ice, so if you step on them, you're going to slide past them. And then some of them have spikes on them, and then things start chasing you. And there's
there's sheep with pillows.
Yeah, they keep adding things to it, but it's a really awesome, great story wrapped up in a puzzle game / bar simulator. And boy, oh boy, do we need more of those.
I love the bar simulator. Drink every night.
So,
Isn't that our real life though?
Huh?
Bar simulator? Isn't that our real life?
I
mean,
mine's
he
the
said-
puzzle part of it. I make stairs and climb.
Yeah.
So, Catherine.
Number 3, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax.
Oh.
It's already up there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find it.
So probably my actual favorite fighting game. Because I'm not real big on the fighters. I play them on occasion, just not usually my kind of thing. I really, really like this one, and mostly probably because of the characters. Knowing them going in is a big help. But the mechanics of this game are surprisingly good. Really well done.
I will say I've shown the game to at least 4 separate people who, one of them doesn't like Persona, one of them knows what it is, and that's it, and 2 of them don't know what Persona is, and all of them at least like that fighting game. So that's a pretty good sign.
Fighting games are really good. It's really well built. I liked it. I like its engine mechanics more than I do most of the serious fighting games, because I don't get that into them where I know frames and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't appeal to me. But I
Yeah,
like
it's
this
not
one quite
one
a
where
bit.
you have to pause and sit there at the button layout.
command
and,
list
Yeah,
and
like
be
you have
like,
to
"What
look at
does
their
this do?"
moves and study it, and then go back and then unpause and then pause again. Like, what was that move? So, like, it's not important.
It's more casual friendly, which is me
Yeah.
as far as fighting. So
Yeah.
really like that game. Like it a lot. I think that's the only 2 PS3 games I've bought that weren't in that big bunch. Were Persona 4 Arena and Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. So
You probably bought them at the same time, right?
100%.
Yep. Same as me. Number 3, Grand Theft Auto 5.
Ooh.
Don't remember it being as sluggish as maybe you just remember it better, because I did buy it for PC when it came out after that and just erased everything not
No,
PC from my
sluggish isn't
brain.
the word. It's just taxing on the hardware.
Runs good on my PC. That's what I have it on.
Skyrim, sluggish.
But yeah, characters for Grand Theft Auto 5. This is the first time they did more than one main character, which was kind of weird at first, bouncing back and forth, but you get Trevor in the game, and that's all that matters.
I knew that was coming.
That guy's nuts.
Michael's fine. Other guy's fine.
Other
I forget his name.
He's not Trevor.
But Trevor makes this game what it is. It's basically the antics of like Nico and his cousins, like on crack, literally. I
Yeah,
guess
I
for
mean-
Trevor. But yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Some of the new functions they added in the game, especially based around your cell phone and stuff like that, just made it a little bit easier to get around and accomplish things. And it felt like that was the longest Grand Theft Auto campaign, or whatever you want to call it,
yeah.
story mode. It felt like that was the longest one out of the entire series. And it didn't feel like, I don't think it ever dipped for me at any point. Usually there's some parts of the story where it's like, you play in San Andreas and all of a sudden you have to go out into the wilderness for a portion of the game. It's like, oh, okay, it's kind of slowing down for a little bit. Here's some funny parts, but
You
then
gotta
it picks
fly a
back
remote
up when
control
you...
helicopter.
But then you get to go to the desert and learn to fly planes, and it's hilarious.
So yeah, there's usually some dips and stuff in these long games. I mean, they're all like 50, 60 hours, something like that at least. So this one just kind of kept ramping up bigger and badder as the game moved on. And yeah, it's one of my favorites, but definitely my favorite that applies to this list.
It's no Vice City.
Next up.
No, it's not.
So I have a very big gap between my number 8 and then my number 9 and 10. And then my 9 and 10 I think are very close. I flip-flop on them, and it's only probably in the past 5 months where I feel like I've solidified which one I like more. But number 9, or number 2,
Number
I guess,
2?
depending on how you want to do that count, 9 points. I do that every one. I always do so well, and then I confuse my point tally for my ranking tally.
It's the one without the check marks. Like
Journey. Journey by that game company. Probably the best 3 hours I've ever spent in a video game ever. Just really incredible, from the music to the tone constantly changing. You spend 20 minutes and it's just super happy and joyous, and then you spend 20 minutes and you're like crying, and you're like, why am I crying? This isn't even sad. What's happening? Like, the game just puts emotions on the screen.
It takes you on a journey.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've only played it once, and I've never had the urge to go back and play it again because I don't want to ruin what it was. But I think maybe in a few years, it's out on PS4 now, so maybe in a few years I'll sit down and I'll take that journey again. They do real unique things in that game that I've never seen in a game before. I've seen it after, but I've never seen it before in there. But yeah, just that. I keep wanting to say journey now, but just that journey that your character takes, this nameless, faceless character, and how they have you connect to them, and I guess it's a twist if you want to call it a twist. The twist of you know your partner and everything in that game. Real cool, real amazing. Easily one of the best games I've ever played, and falls just shy as my number 2 game.
Fair enough. Number 2, I have Uncharted 2. Still my favorite Uncharted game. Mostly because of the characters. Mostly because of Chloe, because she's fantastic. I played all of them on PS4. I don't know what the difference is between the PS3 and PS4 ones.
It's shooting mechanics.
Not much. The mechanics are cleaned up.
Yeah.
Because mechanically, the PS4 one's fantastic. I love that game. I love its set pieces. I think they're great. All the settings are fantastic. The opening on the train, you're just like, what the fuck is going on? You're like, I don't know. I love that game. It's great. I'd recommend it to anybody who plays video games.
Also, another one that has really good multiplayer for no good reason.
So yeah, I didn't even get to play the Uncharted 2 multiplayer.
Uncharted 2's multiplayer was straight arena. Like you spawn with I think an AK every time, and the weapons are on the map, same spawns every time. So it was an arena
like old
game.
school Halo arena.
Yeah. And then the Call of Duty influence kind of seeped in for 3, and they did the class-based stuff. But
yeah, one of my favorite story-driven shooters, I guess. Weird genre, but
roguelike
things.
Third person.
Yeah, it's a great game. I'd recommend to anybody who has the option to play it.
Number 2 on my list. Bit of a stretch when I originally put it on here, but when I'm looking down my list, this has the most game time of all the games on this list at this point.
Oh.
Dragon Age Origins.
All right.
Don't know if it's my favorite Dragon Age. Mass Effect, it's easy to tell which one's your favorite.
Yeah, number 1.
Andromeda makes it a little tougher now. But
not really. Number 1.
No one ever.
There's obviously a really bad one in Dragon Age.
There is?
2.
I wouldn't call it really bad compared to the other ones.
Pretty bad. We'll go pretty bad.
Dragon Age Origins really pissed me off one time.
Yeah. Unless you make a big oops or just
I didn't even do anything.
Yeah.
He just wasn't there. Like the last 5% of the game, I just can't go on.
Good. Sounds like a great video game to put in number 2.
I'm still mad at that.
His heart could not go on.
Or my game.
Just a really good. It's more of like a classical RPG as opposed to most of the things I put on here. You're getting enemy shows up, action pauses. You scout your tactical stuff. You can set up beforehand. Hey, if this guy from range shows up, what do I do? And you can set all your people to do that. Or you can just pick them left and right. Hey, you do this. Hey, you do that. Hey, you do that. Unpause. Stuff happens. On top of that, combat. Really, really, really good story. And like Kellen said, the whole medieval thing, I don't know. At this point, it feels kind of like everything's done medieval. It's not. It was the zombies before zombies became kind of overrun and
one of the
killed
few,
that genre.
One of the few medieval RPGs I really like.
But yeah, this one's a bit different. It's definitely not super realistic. I mean, you got magic and stuff all over the place. It was really cool in how you chose your character. It's not just you hit left and right and choose. Oh, okay, I'm the famous guy, or I'm the rich guy, or I'm the peasant elf, or whatever. Like you chose something, and then you got to play that prologue. You got to go through 3, 4, 5 hours of it, and then that was your 6 or 7 or 8 different paths to start from, and then you started the game. And so you
The opening
built
of that game
your
could be very
backstory.
different, yeah.
Versus hitting start and, in this day and age, blah, 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 you, Kellen, or you, Nick, or Kevin, are this, blah, 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 this was your life beforehand, and then game starts, like, you played it. So that was really cool.
You're leaving out the best part, though. The Mabari War Dog.
The companions, probably some of the best BioWare, which, that's pretty much what they're getting acclaimed for, regardless of how they end their series, is that each game, they put a lot of effort into the characters that you are going to take around with you for X amount of hours. I'd say this one's like 60, 80 hours long, so it was a lot longer than the typical Mass Effect game. And when they were kind of hitting their stride, it was Mass Effect into Dragon Age into Mass Effect, so it was kind of like playing off of each other. This game would do something well, this game would incorporate it, try something new. This game would see the reaction, feedback, and sort of like that. But this was the start for Dragon Age. And like I said, it's a little bit more classical RPG than what we have today, as far as combat's not pause. It's constantly spamming buttons and doing attacks. It's a lot slower pace. Story was slower too, obviously, with a longer game. Awesome companions, like I said. Really cool DLC that they had on there that wasn't super overpriced and no season pass and all this other garbage going on. Yeah, it was like a breath of fresh air when it hit, because everything at that time was still like Fable-ish, where it was like action adventure with RPG elements. So it felt like a step back. It's like, okay, we're going back to classical, but not like text-based classical where you're just reading the whole time. This one's, conversations and multiple. Like, it felt like each conversation you'd have like 5 or 6 options versus be the funny guy, be the smart ass, be the professional. Like, it wasn't super limited. You had all sorts of options as far as who you talk to, what you talk to them about, whatever. And a lot of different play styles too. You didn't have to be just the guy who zaps stuff. I mean, you can turn into some guy who can zap stuff, but he can turn invisible and stab someone with a sword or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest classes ever.
Yeah. Classes, tons of classes, tons of hybrids, and a lot of different paths and replayability in the game.
It had great hybrid classes and a great way of unlocking them. You had to like find
Yeah.
stuff about them and talk to people.
Very rewarding, too, for going down certain paths with people. And there wasn't a clear right or wrong as far as like, oh, this ending was way better than this one. Like, I don't know. Like, they're all kind of up for grabs, whereas opposed to most games, just like, why would you ever choose this? Like the option that never gets chosen or path that never you really go down towards. But yeah.
There was one bad ending where the guy's not there to talk to him. You never get to finish the freaking game.
Start over. And this was one of the ones, too. I'm more like you, where earlier, maybe it was in a previous podcast, where you said you prefer to play human characters. This was the first time I didn't mind branching out, maybe being the elf, maybe being the little dwarf guy, maybe being something else.
Elf might be okay.
They're very human.
They're humans. They just have pointy ears.
Dwarfs are just shorter.
Yeah, I don't like them.
But yeah, like I said, the most amount of game time at this point on my list compared to all the other games.
I like the dwarfs from Drifters.
Oh yeah.
Number 1, to the surprise of no one from me, The Last of Us.
What's that game?
Easily the best fusion of cinematic gameplay and just game mechanics and everything put together. And I think that's where it does it better than like an Uncharted 4, where I think that Uncharted 4 has great mechanics and great gameplay and everything, but they just don't flow as well as The Last of Us's mechanics. It changed how we make games from the future on, how motion caption works, all that stuff. They really pushed the limit of what they could do, and they showed, like, with Uncharted 1 to The Last of Us, how much of a like giant leap you can have, just hardware wise and everything, graphic wise, for one console. And it's my main reason for why I'm like, this is why console life needs to be longer than the 4 years that it was, or the 5 years that it was. And we had like an 8 or 9 year lifespan with the PlayStation 3, and it showed when you look at Uncharted and The Last of Us next to each other. just the characters, super well-rounded characters. Like, I talk about writing an essay on a character. I could write a book on some of the characters in those games. They're just fantastic. The environmental storytelling in that game, where it's totally optional, but you can go up on shore and find this letter that was written, and you can see where they were talking about going and meeting, and you can find that spot, and you can find all the remains of what happened there, and then you can figure out where they went to next, and you can follow these people on their journeys that the people aren't even in the game, but you know exactly how they were and how they felt and everything that they did just from the environment and how the world was built. You can go into these houses and look through the newspaper articles that people have. Every house has a personality that you can explore. And then the best, obviously, Ellie, born into this world, doesn't know what our life was like, right? They have Joel, who's the he knows the before and after, I guess is the best way to put it. And then Ellie, who only knows the after. So she's the innocent one. She has all these questions like, what was life like? What's a concert? Like, I don't understand. Please explain to me what a concert is. What are records? What's this magazine?
What's a giraffe?
What's a giraffe? Like, all these questions and everything. She's so innocent, and at the same time, she's just murdering people. Like, it's very weird and very strange, and the balancing act that they were able to pull with that is phenomenal. And like I said, it's impacting games. I think it's the only game that I would put anywhere close to, like, probably back to PS1 games as far as like impact on the industry and everything. I was trying to think about it. I wanted to go further, but I think like Final Fantasy VII is such another impactful game that we've had. But yeah, getting a sequel, super nervous about it. I would prefer we don't get a sequel, but we're getting it. Hope it doesn't do anything bad with because the story is it's a simple story, but it's a good, well-told story, and I just hope that they know what they're doing. But apparently they wrote that story kind of all together. Like, he finished it, and he was already working on what was next for those characters. So yeah, Last of Us more. It was one of those games. I got it. I actually got it as a surprise. I was not expecting. I didn't want it. I don't like zombies. It's very important. I don't like zombies, or in fact, I hate that stuff. But the game was getting 10s and all this stuff, and I was like, really? Like, to me, it doesn't look like
another
anything
zombie game,
special. Yeah. And my girlfriend surprised me and bought me actually a book bag, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And like, I didn't open it, and she's like, open the book bag up, and I opened it, and I was like, oh, The Last of Us, let's go play it. So we went and played it, and we played it for probably 8-9 hours, and then went to sleep and woke up and just went right back to it and beat it. It was fantastic. And this is a game that I've beaten multiple times since it's come out, and it's just such a good. It's like putting on a good movie that you know, and you know, you can know every line of dialogue or whatever, but every time you watch that movie, you're like, man, what a great movie. And that's just how I feel about The Last of Us, and why I put it above Journey on my list. So, Last of Us, numero uno.
Fair.
You guys can go ahead and do your little talk.
Tag team those?
Yeah.
Talk about our number one game.
Have we talked about it on this show yet at all?
On this, yeah.
No, Persona 5.
Have we mentioned that Persona 5 is pretty good and we like it a lot?
Oh,
like on this
just
channel?
on like Press X a few times.
Have we mentioned? Okay.
Yeah, a few times.
So my number one's Persona 5. Nick?
Yeah. Thought long and hard about it. Not really. Persona 5.
Thought about 5 seconds.
The easiest decision I've ever made.
Really?
This game changed the way I approach like best of lists. Usually I had a pretty concrete list of like, here's my top 10 games if I ever had to answer it. But
I have that too. We're gonna do that sometime.
But like,
we did something similar once, but
there's no way now. Basically, I had to start splitting it up. And what I started doing is Persona 5 is my best of the East. And by East, I obviously mean geographical, Japanese games. If someone, I guess, held a gun to me, I would probably make a decision on my actual favorite game. Don't do that. But
I know my actual favorite game.
But yeah, like, I've got to split it up now.
So many tiebreakers. We have 3 games, and then the rest is all a tie.
But it's so good. Persona 5. I mean, we played it on PS4.
Yeah,
I can't.
I
can't speak to loading issues. Yeah, I can imagine.
I wouldn't call them issues. They're longer.
I looked up the PS3 difference. It's all graphical and loading. That's
okay.
it. They don't change story settings.
I mean, the game was developed for the PS3.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be a bad experience. It's not like Skyrim. It's just
And
a
obviously,
bad
this type
experience
of
on
game
PS3.
isn't like, if there were issues with it anyway, it's not frame rate dependent. It's not, it doesn't bank solidly that some of these other ones would have. We could obviously spend hours talking about it. We already have.
And probably will again.
It just, for that JRPG genre, I think it just upped the scale that Persona 4 Golden has already done. Persona 3, in my mind, has done. Final Fantasy, in some regards, has done. I think it's just a complete re-raise over almost, if not every category in those types of games. And the fact that it's available for the PS3 is still kind of mind-blowing to me. Because you think it's a dead system, but
It'll never die.
But there it is. And I think if that is...
Yeah, part of the reason we did the 360 list first is because we were waiting for Persona to come out and make
Waiting
sure
for P5.
We cheated.
it was what we assumed it would be.
It is what we thought it would be and more.
But if there's a game to ever go out on, as far as your system is concerned...
It's hard to top P5.
This is the one.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game. It's all right. I'd play it again.
I got sucked into this game way harder than I set the bar extremely high.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is our bar was very high to begin with.
Yeah,
and it still jumped over it.
which
easily.
isn't fair to any game to do that. But yeah, it was unavoidable.
Like there's no way I would have said I'd be the first to finish out of the three of us before the game came out, and then I finished it.
Yeah.
Throw in for that damn Mass Effect.
If it weren't for that damn podcast we had to film.
Oh yeah, that stupid thing.
I just took days off work. Well, I was taking them off anyway, but
podcasting.
worth it.
But yeah, best Japanese game, I think, and it deserves its rightful place as number one.
Number one PS3.
All right, so we have two ties to break, and that's
Fabulous
the whole list.
Fabulous game.
Unlike the other lists where we had a bunch of kind of ties throughout the list, we're way closer. This one's just a bunch of games all tied in
Like a
one
bunch of
spot.
9,
Just
10
all matched
point.
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first one is Catherine versus GTA 5.
Ooh.
I will go ahead and speak to it first because I have not played Catherine myself. I'll say GTA 5.
Okay, I mean, I obviously say Catherine.
Ooh, that's why I said ooh. I knew I was the tiebreaker here. I think I'll give it to Catherine. The game is quite entertaining and fun and weird.
And shouldn't work.
And
but
no, it should not, but it's quite good.
Man, Atlas represented a lot on this list.
They're fabulous people.
All right, so here's the here's the 5-way tie that we have to break.
Okay, so with the easiest way, there's 5. So if you say the 5 and then we rank the 5, would you want to do that?
Let's just do that, yeah. This is the worst PS3 list I've ever seen in my life.
All I care about is number 1.
That seems
And
fine.
we got there, baby.
We got it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll count up. Number 10, GTA 5, making its way on both our 360 and our PS3 list. Number 9, Catherine, also doing the same. Number 8, Journey. Number 7, Dragon Age Origin, whatever that is. Number 6,
I didn't even know that was
Heavy Rain.
eligible for the list.
Oh, it was.
Number 5, Infamous 1.
Cool.
Number 4, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. Good fighting game. Second best fighting game on the PS3. Number 3, Uncharted 2. Number 2, The Last of Us. And number 1, Persona 5. I like our top 3.
Top 3 is really
Our
good.
top 3 is sweet. I don't really know what happened after that.
Me and Nick
But-
happened.
Yeah, that is actually what happened. But anyway, that is our top 10 PlayStation 3 games, I guess, because that's how that happened.
Good job, Nick.
Hey, Persona 1.
We almost got Journey off there.
You got, how do you... I've never seen Journey lower than maybe 3.
It probably helps to play it.
Maybe.
It probably helps to be more than 3 hours and me to care about it.
What's wrong with it being 3 hours? You don't want it to be more than 3 hours.
I don't want to play it also.
You like Firewatch?
Yeah, it's cool.
It's way better than Firewatch.
I doubt it.
I don't.
I've seen the statue.
It's a sweet statue.
It is cool.
Anyway, please put your top 10 PlayStation 3 list down below. You could do your favorite, but do ones that you would recommend would probably be the best way to do it. I want to sometime, like you were talking about, do a favorites list and see how that goes. Because it'd be very different. Like, my favorite, I'd have Tekken on there. All these games that...
Me and you did something similar a while back. We picked, like, consoles and did our favorite game on a console. Did, like, 7 consoles or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember doing that. But I
only
think
remember because I found my list the other day.
Probably not. We'll probably do Vita or 3DS next. But I would very much like to do one of them that's just favorite games. And do that. Even if we do one episode where it's just one of us doing our 10 favorite games and we have 3 separate episodes or something. Anyway, we'll figure all that out.
Give me plenty of notice for that. Because I said, Persona
it won't be soon.
Screwed up my system for, this is my best whatever. Now I can maybe do genre.
Persona might be one of my favorite game series now. That's what it did for me.
Yeah.
But
it just messed it all up.
Thank you for being here. Super late. Kellen?
Yeah.
And thank you for being here, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you guys so much for watching. We'll speak with you next time.
That journey.